Have you ever wondered what it would be like to be in conversation and in relationship with other people as a more whole version of yourself? Well, you're not alone. And if this idea piques your interest and curiosity, I invite you to join my friend Manak Singh and myself, Dr. Node Smith, as we explore some of life's most challenging and interesting questions and social dilemmas in a conversation that is more about how we are relating to each other and to ourselves, and less about the information that we're presenting. So, welcome to the relational field.
I would consider the topic that we're going to discuss today to be one of the most important um, areas of exploration that we could be embarking on as a culture right now, as a society, as a Western society.
When I hear that, I get really, really intrigued.
Mm.
And let me tell you why. I switched off from the news
Mm.
back when COVID started to become a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I always knew that mainstream media wasn't always telling the truth,
Mm-hmm.
especially after the 2016 presidential election when our dear leader was apparently a clown and could never get elected.
Mm-hmm.
And then he got elected.
Yep.
So that was the first time I felt like, oh, maybe like the stuff that I'm watching and all these big news outlets and all these big, even like political comedy shows,
Mm-hmm.
I got the impression they didn't really have an idea of what they were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my first hit with just media.
Mm-hmm.
And then when once COVID hit, then it just became so clear to me the extent to which they were lying and the extent to which propaganda was being
Yeah.
propagated, and I just switched off.
Mm.
So for me, I do have a fascination with Trump, but it's been very much from a distance.
Yeah.
And I'm very curious to know why this is so important. Why do you think this is one of those most important things?
Mm. When I hear you say all that, I'm really touched and also saddened. I'm saddened that someone so like intellectually capable would not be part of the conversation. And what and I resonate with that very, very strongly because I would put myself in that same category too. And I have that this same sadness for myself of like I'm not engaging in this. And part of it is it's been really difficult for me to see how to engage with this conversation the way that I truly want to engage in it and in a way that I think is ultimately helpful. Um, because I'm not really interested so much in um, giving my thoughts and opinions about the facts. I think that what we're seeing is how facts and our relationship with facts are kind of part of the problem. Um, and what I'm really interested in is how Trump is showing us our lack of relational capabilities, um, our lack of honesty with ourselves, and our inability to uh, communicate well with each other. I think the the most important thing that we could be doing right now is considering how the chaos and the insanity that our world leaders are showing us is about us. It's about myself and how I relate to other people, how I relate to news sources, how I relate to information and facts and truth. And that's why I think it's so important to be exploring our relationship with somebody who's as volatile and as easy to project onto as Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm. So Trump is essentially the monster under the bed that we need to look at.
Yeah, he's the scapegoat.
He's a scapegoat.
He's a scapegoat. He's a scapegoat for my narcissism. Right? And when I say my narcissism, I what I really mean is our collective narcissism. So
let's get into that.
Yeah.
Let's get into Trump, narcissism, and what I'm projecting on him.
Let's do it.
Where do you stand on Trump and narcissism? Do you think he's a narcissist? Where do you stand on that?
I don't want to answer that question. What really comes up for me, what's really alive when you ask me that, is how you, the audience, are responding to that question. Even how you're responding to the idea that we're going to talk about Trump. Do you have a strong opinion either way? Are you an anti-Trump person? Is that important to you? That's what I'm curious about. Or are you a pro-Trump person? And is that important to you? And I think this is, to me, the foundation of a real productive exploration into Trump and what's going on in the Western world with our leaders right now. Is where do I stand? Where do you stand? And is that important to you? Is it really like a stance? And as we start talking about Trump and throwing out ideas and our own relationship with what's happening in Trump, what happens inside of you? Is there a total disengagement, a total disassociation from our relationship together as humans who want safety and want love and want to be connected and want to be able to walk out our front doors and experience life in a free state, right? In the beauty and majesty and coolness and wonder that life can be. And yeah, that's kind of where that question brings up for me.
When I hear you say all that, I want to reveal my relationship to Trump, which is in the 2016 election. During the 2016 election, I thought he was a clown, and I didn't expect him to win, and he won.
Yeah.
So that got me curious. I'm like, whoa, wait, how did it? If he was truly a clown, how did he win?
Yeah.
So that piqued my curiosity, and then as the years went by, and I was hit in the face with with some of the postmodern culture wars.
Yeah.
Trump started to make a lot more sense to me, and I became partial to him.
Yeah.
But largely I've been apolitical
Mm-hmm.
because largely I feel that I don't know what the truth is.
Yeah.
So for me, Trump is not a charged topic in the sense that I'm not like a hard pro or a hard anti-Trump person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm partial to Trump, and what I'm more fascinated by is the reaction or the polarization, that polarizing effect that Trump has on the world
Yeah.
and on culture. And that is really my fascination with him.
Yeah. That's my fascination with him as well.
Okay.
Yeah. And when you said that this clown got elected, I was like, oh yeah, it's so interesting. I remember following the early election, the 2016 election, and being amazed at the tail end of it. At the beginning, I just thought, oh, this is ridiculous. At the tail end, I started getting really curious, like really interested in what was happening. And Trump is the first president to use social media.
Oh.
Right? Like, and that's fascinating. And we all use social media. We're using social media right now. Right?
Yeah.
And to have a leader see that he could leverage that was fascinating. You know, it broke out of a traditional mode of communication. And he took on the role of an influencer, right? Of an entertainer. And I think that says a lot about us as a culture, as a society.
We love entertainment.
We love it.
Yeah.
Right? And so, is this about Trump or is it about us? And I come back to that because I think it's so important to see how I'm part of this. Like, I'm participating in this through my misunderstanding of what social media is, not understanding how this framework works, how algorithms work, not seeing that the things that I see in my feed are not what other people are seeing. Right? All of these kind of meta structural components of how media is delivered to us and how we're in that system are really important to see right now. And if you're not seeing it, if I'm not seeing it, I'm being controlled by it. Right? The information is not as important as how it's being delivered.
I completely agree. And I'd forgotten that he was the first president to be on Twitter.
Yeah.
And just tweeting at random times in the day.
Right? People didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating. Right?
And, you know, now that I think about my relationship to entertainment, I definitely found him to be the most entertaining president.
Oh, yeah.
Granted that I've not seen a lot of U.S. elections, but I've read a lot of history, including U.S. history, and there have been some great intellectual revolutionary presidents that the U.S. has had. But if you ask me which president do I want to have a beer with, it would not be George Washington. It would not be Thomas Jefferson, not Lincoln. You know, like none of those guys. It would be. It wouldn't even be FDR or Wilson. It would be Trump.
Oh, interesting. I would put my hat in with Obama.
Oh, interesting.
I think Obama would be a fun president to have a beer with. Yeah, I think I would relate to him a little bit more. Yeah. When you say when I try on having a beer with Trump, I don't think I could get past his communication style. I don't think that would be a fun experience for me.
Like, what about his communication style?
He doesn't seem to leave a lot of space for other people to exist in the conversation. It's just something that I've noticed in his like interviews with other people and and when he is in meetings with other people, there's not a lot of space for other opinions to be present, or
Yeah, I agree with that.
yeah.
I agree with that. And I think that tells us something about our personalities. I am so okay with somebody else taking space, as long as it is entertaining for me to do so.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah, that's cool.
Entertainment. So yeah, that's one thing he shows us.
Yeah.
How much this is about entertainment rather than logic.
Yeah. Yeah, what does that say about me? That I don't really care that it's logical. And that's, I'm not, yeah, I do care that it's logical. It bothers me that he gets in these kind of fantasies, seemingly. And at the same time, he is the president. Like, this is a factual reality that he's the president of the United States, and he is doing these things, whether you agree or not. And to be a president, what comes up for me is like what that role requires behind the scenes, whether you're doing a good job of it or not. And we can argue about whether he is or isn't. That's actually kind of an irrelevant point in simply seeing that this is a man who likely works 16-hour days, 7 days a week, all year round. His entire life is scheduled. And he interacts with hundreds of people every single day. And so the tiny little clips that I see of him, the odd hour interview that I'll watch, or the clips from C-SPAN or CNN or Fox News, these are a tiny fraction of what he does and what his life is like. And so, yeah, it's an interesting thing to kind of frame who he is solely based on these sensational clips.
Mm-hmm. It is a dangerous game to be playing, to make a judgment based on those sensational clips.
Yeah.
But one thing that stood out for me when you were saying that is that regardless of what he is doing in office, what is striking is that he has been collectively chosen.
Yeah.
And
what does that say?
And exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I feel that even for people, when I say collectively chosen, I don't just mean those people who voted for him, mm-hmm. but even those people who did not vote for him, mm-hmm. who had nothing but hate for him, mm-hmm. I feel are also involved in the choosing of the dear leader.
I love that you bring that up. I resonate with that, and I would agree. And I have a story that there's at least one person watching this who is feeling really bristled by that. Like, fuck you. Like, I hear that, and I hear that culturally when I kind of put out these ideas about Trump and trying to not just condemn him, or even look at the positive things that he is doing and has done. That I sense this like backlash of, oh, how could you say that? Like, he's evil incarnate. And it's really interesting for me, because my sense of where that's coming from is it's coming from a demographic that really champions love, right? It really, and community and connection and looking at even criminals, looking at criminals, looking at individuals who break the law, and allowing them grace, seeing that there are traumas in our lives that influence who we are and how we interact with the world. And from that demographic, I sense that we get the strongest hate for Trump. And it makes sense in some ways. And it also is a huge contradiction in values. And I'm really curious about that.
I couldn't agree more. As soon as you said that it comes from a demographic that champions love, I felt that contradiction just getting stuck in my throat.
Yeah.
Because I question it, is it love for all, or is it love for whoever shares the same values as me?
Yeah. For sure.
And it seems to be the latter.
It does. It seems to be the latter. Yeah. And what's coming up for me right now is this really interesting question that, I don't know, maybe I'm projecting this question out into the audience. And the question is, who is this episode for? Like, who are we like including into this conversation as we're having this? Like, what's the intention?
Oh, this could go so many places.
Yeah.
The first thing that comes up for me is people like me who are fascinated by the Trump phenomena from a distance. But their relationship to truth, especially geopolitical truth and cultural truth, is so fractured that they rather maintain that distance than get into it.
Yeah.
So that would be one demographic.
Yeah, I like that demographic. I feel cozy with that demographic for sure. The demographic that I really kind of resonate for myself in kind of like really wanting to connect with, like I have this sadness that I feel disconnected with this demographic, is that political left who is so like has such a hatred for Trump and what's happening. And I understand it, I appreciate it, and I don't think it's productive. You know, like Bernie Sanders, you know, or, you know, the individuals that you see on like The Tonight Show or something, and they just get wrapped around the axle about how horrible Trump is. You know, individuals who can't even hear the name of Trump. And I have such a sadness that that I can't connect with them. You know, that there can't be some type of conversation about what this means to all of us. That maybe Trump is trying to show us something about ourselves, and how we're not able to love and communicate and be in community with other people who don't agree or don't think like us. And I think it's the edge, it's the very kind of leading edge of culture right now is this idea of how do we be in relationship with other people without them needing to change.
What I hear from you is wanting to connect with this new left.
Yeah.
Because you are saddened by the disconnection that has shown itself as a result of either as a result of Trump or at the same time as Trump has come into the picture. What do you think Actually, before I ask that question, I want to say that my relationship to the new left is also quite fractured. And I am judgmental. I don't agree with a lot of the things they say.
Mm-hmm.
And if I was more enlightened, I'd try to understand them. But that has not been my stance for the most part.
Okay, yeah. That's so curious.
And I'm very open to this. Let's try to connect with them.
Mm-hmm.
Let's try to see what they need.
Yeah.
And that's where my question comes from. What do you think they need from this side of the political divide? Let's say that.
Mm. Well, something really interesting is kind of bubbling up in me, like this kind of giddy, playful, like, oh, let's try this game out, okay? And if you're still with us, which I dearly hope that you are, and I have this sense that there could be some confusion. You know, this question of like, who is Dr. Note and who is Manak Singh, and like, where are they standing on this issue? You know, what do they really think about Trump? And I'm curious, like, what is that like for you? Like, what's it like to really not know what we think? And what are the assumptions that you might be having about either one of us or both of us, about where we stand, kind of how we voted, or what our upbringing was? Because I have this story that maybe you think I am a little more conservative than I am, which is very humorous to me.
I like that, and maybe you think I'm not a socialist.
Yeah.
Or I might have socialist tendencies.
Right.
Yeah.
And what comes up for me is this. I feel compelled to give some of my background and see how it lands. See if it changes anything. And this, to me, is a really curious and important aspect of this exploration, is how does my knowledge of someone else's story influence how I relate and connect with them? Right? Like the identity. Right? Like, how is identity shaping our idea of politics? Right? Why does that matter? And I'm curious what happens when I say, like, I grew up in Seattle, north of Seattle, in, you know, arguably one of the most progressive places in the Northern Hemisphere. I grew up with lesbian parents, single mom, single dad, kind of both sides of that. Drug addiction in my family, mental health issues in my family and friends. Grew up in a very progressive area. Went to school and studied postmodernism and critical theory at a liberal arts college, and was very entrenched in that world for a couple decades. Changed my name to embody my feminine pole.
Is that your current name?
Yeah.
I had no fucking idea.
The stories that we have about people.
Yeah.
And I dedicated my life early on as a young man, 19, 20 years old, to learning how to love better, learning how to love unconditionally, following a universal spiritual path. And so I'm curious what changes in our relationship together, knowing that.
I'm curious, has anything changed in you giving out your story? Because this is the first time I've seen you highlight a possible utility of sharing a story.
Ooh. Does anything change for me? I get kind of giddy at the prospect of like misunderstandings, like more areas of misunderstandings to arise now that more of the story is here.
Giddy as in like, I can't handle this, or giddy as in like, this is like pleasantly giddy?
Like pleasantly giddy.
Okay.
Like, okay, we're maybe gonna get a little messy here.
Okay. We would love to know, and I'm now talking to the audience, we would love to know your thoughts.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we would love for you to comment or reach out in any other way and let us know your experience of this podcast so far.
And I voted for Trump in the last election. Yeah. And I'm curious what happens there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm way curious what happens. And I'm curious when I say that if there's an idea that I agree with Trump. Because I don't. I very much disagree with the man, Trump.
So I would like to now play the role of the audience.
Okay, I would love that. Ooh.
And I would like to ask you a question. Well, if you disagree with the man,
Mm-hmm.
and you have all this background in progressivism and postmodernism,
Mm-hmm.
why do you vote for him in 2024?
Because there are broken things within the political left that I think only someone like Trump can show us and shine the light on. And it's my deep hope. And it's my deep hope that we can see this as a need to change, a need to reevaluate the course trajectory of liberal politics, and see how many people, how much of culture is not served by certain aspects of the political left and liberal politics right now. And that we would be able to do something different. That's my utopian hope.
If I imagine myself to be in the new left, and I hear that, the only way I'm receiving that, or the only way I'm open to that, is if I accept that things are not working out right now,
Mm-hmm.
culturally and individually,
Mm-hmm.
for me, and it is my orientation, or it is to the extent that I am acting out my values,
Yeah.
that is contributing to the problem.
Mm.
That's when I'm open to that.
Yeah.
That's when I'm open to having this discussion and listening to you. But if I feel Trump is the reason for all the bad things, then I'm not open to anything you're saying.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's an impasse, right? That's an impasse, and my understanding of the psychological culture, the spiritual culture, the values of the left at a core level, like really the truth that the left is really trying to get at. I think there's a high degree of introspection that they champion, and this idea that when I project and judge someone else, that there's, you know, four fingers pointing back at me, that this is, you know, that this, my projection or my judgment on someone else is showing me something, that I'm seeing it as a mirror. This is a pretty common understanding that I have seen and discussed in progressive circles for 25 years now. And so I assume that lands, and it's a foundation that we can build off of. If it's not, then we're probably not having this conversation and are out of connection. But if it is, then yeah.
So we speak right now to the people who do have that level of awareness about judgment.
Yeah, I think so. Which is really interesting. There's a really interesting.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Okay.
Yeah, let's assume that there is this part of the left that is aware of the judgments they're making, and are also aware, to some extent, that not everything that they're doing is benefiting culture.
Yeah. Yeah, it's... What comes up for me when you say that is... how isolated, how alone a lot of people feel. You know, how widespread mental health complaints are. Depression, anxiety, social anxiety, overwhelm, burnout. And often, from my perspective, as a healthcare worker, I see almost a universal experience of anxiety and depression and social isolation and a difficulty communicating and relating to individuals within the progressive culture. Almost like this idea that, like, I can't connect with you because I don't know like how I'm going to be received. I don't know if you're going to like agree with me. Like, I don't know if you're a Trumper or not. So I can't say anything because it might rock the boat or might, you know, offend you or I don't feel safe. And I think that's really interesting within a demographic who I think would champion relationship and connectivity and collaboration as a core value. And it's not what I'm seeing. It's not what I'm seeing in how organizations who are largely progressive operate. In fact, what I'm starting to notice is that I'm seeing more of it in organizations who are a little bit more conservative. Almost like, and I don't know that this is true, but it's a sense I have, almost like there's a conservative demographic that is learning and growing. It's kind of like taking some of the things that the progressive left is about and seeing that those are good things. And it's like they're trying to learn them and their growth is happening. And I think that's a really curious thing and maybe an important thing to put a pin in and start to observe and watch, is how maybe what we're anyway, I'm gonna stop there.
How the conservatives are actually taking in some of the beneficial orientation or viewpoints of the left.
So when you said conservatives, like I had this sense of like all conservative, and that's not what I mean. I mean that there are certain organizations and certain demographics of individuals who have historically been conservative, who are starting to learn these things. An example of this would be, patients I have personally, male patients, and who are seeking out, therapy and seeking out help to learn how to communicate better, learn how to be more authentic, whole in themselves. That's a real shift from a traditional kind of conservative masculine identity, and something that the progressive left has been talking about for years and years and years. And these men are not interested in becoming progressive as progressive is right now. It's like they're looking to something else. And I think that something else is to account for this type of brokenness within the left ideology right now.
So when you use that word broken, it implies an unbroken left. And I would like to know this distinction between the broken left and the unbroken left. Because I would like to know, if I'm somebody on the left and I'm one of these people who we're addressing, and I want to see what's going on with me internally, and I want to positively contribute to culture while at the same time maintaining my values. I don't know what to look for, because I don't have good examples in my life. So when you say unbroken left, I'm wondering if you can, if you have an idea of what that looks like.
I have an idea I have an idea of what that looks like how that's manifested. I think it's when I try it on and kind of and feel into it. It's a left that isn't so rigidly preoccupied with being right. It's a left that looks to a future where we can disagree, and that disagreement doesn't necessarily have to cause conflict. It's a left that can see and appreciate the value in political stances that it doesn't agree with. That it can truly appreciate how fear influences policy, and instead of resisting that, actually work with it. It's a political left that sees what it has done in a lot of ways has not worked and does need to continue progressing. That it's not at the top of the mountain. And that maybe it needs to be informed by some of the right values. That maybe we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think that's some of what an unbroken left would give us.
So a few things come up for me here as I think about how one goes about opening up to these viewpoints. Opening up to this new stance. And when I say opening up, I just mean let's just entertain what this looks like. That's all I mean. I don't mean I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
I feel it requires a study of history to some extent. It requires self-awareness work to some extent. It requires taking an honest look at what is working and what is not working, and opening up to different perspectives on how to approach what is not working, even looking towards the other side of politics for those answers. When it feels like what you're doing is definitely not working.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what comes up for me.
I like that. When I hear you say that, I agree. I resonate with everything you said. And what comes up for me out of that is it requires standing for something. And I think that that's a lack in the left. You know, if all truth is valid, which is a value of the left, right? That we're not going to tell people what truth is, right? Which is an understandable value, like it comes from a good place, you know, that we all have our truth and we all have our identity, and we're not going to tell people what to do and you know what morality and ethics are. And I agree with some of that. And that's what allows someone like Donald Trump to become president, is because if all truth is valid, then we can't argue with Donald Trump's truth. Okay? And the way that the left has come about in disagreeing with Trump and all of that has been reactionary. It's not metered and diplomatic, and it doesn't understand where Trump is coming from or what he's doing or how this could happen. It's much more unconscious unconscious reaction to a lot of the values being kind of thrown out the window. But we're learning that maybe there is a truth, you know, and maybe it's not what traditional truth was championed 50 years ago or 100 years ago. It's new and it has evolved, and we're seeing what that truth is in a more whole way. And it probably includes a little bit more structure, a little bit more responsibility and accountability than the left has traditionally wanted to concede.
I'd really like to dig into this idea of truth. Mm-hmm. I think this is important.
Yeah.
When you say truth, are you talking about subjective truth? Are you talking about objective truth, universal truth? I'm a bit hazy on this word. And like, what is the when you say truth in the context of the left? Like, what are you speaking of?
In the context of the left, I think what I mean by truth is, what are you and I going to decide are the social, what are we going to decide are worthwhile elements or worthwhile values and principles that we can use to build a social scaffolding that we can agree on, that we're gonna say, okay, this is what we are considering to be the social political context that we're going to operate in. And right now we disagree with that. The left predominantly doesn't have a clear set of what those rules and principles and ethics would be. It's because it's constantly changing and shifting depending on the identities that are affected, which is great, and that should be taken into account. But at the end of the day, if I don't know what road I'm driving on, it's really hard to get anywhere.
This is very interesting, because what I'm hearing is that the left needs to come to agreement with the rest of the country as to what are the most important values for this country.
Yeah, and it's, we're seeing the Trump is showing us something really interesting, and that's the importance of nationalism. And I have this sense that as like I throw that out, and there's likely a reaction to that idea of nationalism. And there's healthy nationalism and there's unhealthy nationalism. If you and anyone who's really vested in a group, an organization, a tradition of any kind, has some sense of what it's like to have, an identity through a group. And that's exactly what nationalism is. And nationalism can be really healthy. Right? It can pull us together. It can give us a shared interest and a shared unity. And if that shared unity is something that is worthwhile and fulfilling and champions everyone, then that's great. That's not really what we feel or even see happening right now. But there's a longing for this. There's a longing for a sense of identity, or a sense of inclusion, a sense of connection, a sense of community that we're lacking. And the conservative right really is championing this. And we see that. We see that with the rallies and the flags and the Make America Great Again, and that it's very much part of that movement, and it resonates with a part of us that we sense is important, that we want. And I think it's a part of the left that is largely denied. It's like the left doesn't want to admit it needs it. It's like, I don't want to be defined by my, by my country of origin, by my nationality, which is great. Like, I agree. I don't want to be defined by that either. But how cool would it be to have that be a part of my identity? Like, to live in a place where I felt so included that I wanted to be a part of it. And what would that look like? Right? And I think that the left could use some thinking about that. Like, what do I really want this to look like? And what do I don't want it to look like?
What I hear is that healthy nationalism, whatever that is something that can be integrated into the values and needs of the new left.
I think so. But it needs to be honestly appreciated. That if we're going to have a national identity, then that does mean that there are things that will not be part of that identity, which is fine. Right? Mm-hmm. That's fine. You just are not included in that group. And that's a hard sell. That's a hard sell for the left. The left that wants to include everything.
A theme that is just screaming at me during this whole discussion is inner work. Mm-hmm. It just feels like inner work just being done at another level.
Totally.
This is integration. Is basically what is being asked for here.
100%.
That seems to be the only solution.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think a healthy left champions healthy personal development, right? A growth, right? Yeah.
And Trump is the trauma they need.
Yeah, 100%. Trump is the trauma they need.